Good news can often get overlooked or buried by the negative in our everyday lives. So let's change that. I'm Adrianna.
And I'm Wyatt.
We're just two ordinary people without any special qualifications or anything, trying to navigate life. We invite you to join us as we share wholesome stories, news articles of hope, and ideas about how we can all make the world just a little bit brighter. We are uplifting positive stories. Welcome back to another episode of Uplifting Positive Stories. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Hope everybody had a great Easter weekend. We're recording this before Easter weekend, so we have no idea.
We totally know that we had a great Easter.
Yeah.
Actually, we do have really fun plans for Easter.
I'm almost certain we will have gone to church.
Yes. And we're going to have an Easter brunch with my mom, it sounds like,
probably.
or Easter lunch. So I'm excited for that.
These are all assumptions at this point. They have not happened yet.
Yeah, so it should be good.
It won't be for you, though.
You'll have already had it, probably. All right. Well, today's episode is all about paying attention to others. So today's episode kind of goes into few different areas of paying attention to people's likes and dislikes, which we've talked about a little bit on this podcast, the importance of paying attention to the details, the importance of recognizing little opportunities to do a kind thing for somebody, paying attention to if somebody seems like they're okay or there might be some issues going on that maybe they might need you to check in with them, stuff like that. So it kind of, like I said, a little bit of a broad topic, but we got some great stories lined up. So we're going to start right off with the subreddit Benign Existence. And
the gift that keeps on giving here.
I know. I found so many good stories on it. I was like, where has this thread been? I just discovered it. It's got a gold mine. So the title for this is Pink Find, and the story says...
Pink Find?
Pink Find.
Okay.
I once read a book that stated the truest way to give a gift is to allow the recipient to find or happen upon it. With this in mind...
Depends on the person.
That's true.
I know some people out there that I get pretty frustrated at that, but I know others, like you're probably one of them that would probably find that fun.
That's true. You got to make it clear that it's for you, though, because I'm always the certain type of person that I'm like, was this an accident? Someone like leave this here? Oh, it is for me. Oh, okay. You know?
Side note, only because of the Easter topic, there's the videos of you growing up with having to find your Easter baskets are they're both funny and also sad and depressing because your baskets are always kind of hard to find, at least in these videos. Your brother finds his before you, and then you spend forever trying to find them. And then you get more sad as you find them. But then if you know where they are, you walk by it so many times, and then you finally find it, and then you claim that it was easy to find
after hours.
Anyways, a quick side note on that, just because of the Easter, and it made me think of that.
The Easter egg ones.
It is, funny. Yeah.
All right, back to the story. With this in mind, I have a young coworker whose desk decor color of choice is pink. Pink email theme, pink blotter, pink Post-its, pink tumbler, the works. She also drives a custom painted pink vehicle.
Oh, wow. That's some dedication to pink.
One night after work, walking the dog, we happened on a hot pink square milk crate storage cube that was labeled as free. We picked it up and the next morning got to work early and set it under her desk like a footrest. Perhaps she could even use it for trunk storage in her pink vehicle. I never saw it again. She never mentioned it, and I felt like she must have thrown it away or thought it was weird trash. I felt so stupid. 4 months later, she opened one of her desk cabinets, and there it was. She stows her purse and jacket in it when she comes to work. It was enough just to glimpse it and know it found its way. Yeah, so...
I wonder why they didn't say anything about it.
What do you, the person who found it?
Yeah.
I don't think they knew who gave it to him.
You don't think you'd ask around out of curiosity?
I mean, yeah, maybe.
Like, who gave me this? Like, where'd this come from? Should this be here?
You would think.
Kind of like the duck story in the last 2 episodes ago, whenever that episode was.
Yeah, right? You're like, oh, I don't know who did this.
Or you're just like, sick, free stuff.
Yeah, someone gave it to me.
It's pink. It must be for me.
I mean, I guess it also depends on how close they are with the people there.
That's true.
You know, it could be like they don't really talk to people there. You know, you never know. But yeah, a cute thought, you know, it's like it's noticing what people like and trying to find a way. If you notice something that you're like, I think this person would like this and it's free, might as well give it to them. You know, little things like that.
To be fair, that'd be a pretty hard one to miss in terms of
a hot pink.
Based off of the description of the OP story.
She clearly liked pink. Clearly.
It'd be pretty bad if all people like, I think their favorite color is blue.
It must be. It's gotta be. But yeah, really, really cool. This next one is from the subreddit Today I Am Happy, and it is titled Today I Am Happy Because My Girlfriend Pays Attention to Details. Here's what it says.
Okay.
We've been dating for 3 months, and during our conversations, I once mentioned mushrooms are my absolute favorite food. She has a special
hot
recipe.
take.
Yeah. She has a special recipe that she uses to cook pasta and broccoli. We were in her kitchen and I noticed she was cooking, but she didn't let me help her. She used her recipe to cook mushrooms. She mixed my favorite food with her favorite recipe, and it tasted absolutely amazing. I also noticed she had a small package of my favorite instant hot chocolate, which I had never told her about, but I once bought 4 or 5 of them while I was in the supermarket with her. The fact that she remembers small details about me and that she's willing to try things I like makes me feel like she cares about me as much as I care about her. So, yeah.
This story makes me think of the story we had previous on here where it was where they noticed the specific order in which their partner eats their food. And then when they ate it outside that order, the boyfriend or the husband, I can't remember which, just like, is everything okay? Like,
you never eat your food like that.
Yeah. Do you not like the food? Is something wrong?
Right.
You know? And she was moved by the fact that he noticed that.
Yeah. Paying attention to people can really make a big difference. It can really show that you care. Because when we pay attention to when we pay attention to something, it means we care. So if you're paying attention to someone's preferences, the things that they like, the things that they don't like, it really shows them that you care. Even if it's as minor as adding mushrooms to a dish because you know that they really like it. Like it can be even little things, but it can really make a huge difference. It can really show a lot based on that. So I thought that was a good example of that. And it goes back to like you said, that story. So
well, especially because also there's periods of time where, you're kind of forgetful or you're listening, but you're not really retaining because you're doing X, Y, or Z. You're thinking about X, Y, or Z. You're asked to do something and then you get distracted or whatever happens, and you can sometimes make you feel not listened to or paid attention to. But then when somebody goes out of their way to act upon, things that they've noticed about you and have paid attention to that you weren't expecting them to, that kind of helps balance that out. The times where, just because of circumstance or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. Going on to our next story. This one comes from Benign Existence, and it is titled, My Son is So Kind-Hearted. Here it goes. My son is almost 16, and he is one of the kindest people I have ever encountered. He texted me right after he got on the bus and asked if I could pick up a Hershey's bar on my way home from work. I asked if he needed it for something, and he said the bus driver told him it's her birthday today, and he asked her what kind of candy she likes. He notices people and cares for people. He starts the coffee pot for me every morning because he gets downstairs 15 minutes before I do. He learned, nice. Yeah, right? He learned some basic Spanish phrases to be able to talk with a new kid at school who was not fluent in English yet. I just love watching the way he moves through the world, trying his best to uplift and encourage people. He is going to be a great man.
He doesn't know it yet, but he is already a member of the Kindness Revolution.
The Kindness Revolution.
It's a thing. It's happening. We're a few weeks in now. This kid is going to be one of the leaders.
The leader of the Kindness Revolution.
Yes, he's already leading by example.
I just love the thought of it's their birthday. What kind of candy do they want? I'm going to text my mom and tell her to pick one up for the ride home. Like, that's so cool. Most people wouldn't even bat an eyelash and just be like, oh, it's the bus driver's birthday. Okay. So the thought to go into that.
I'm inferring a little bit more than what the story has written here. I'm based off of how they describe this kid. It wouldn't be surprised if the reason they find out that it was the bus driver's birthday because they engaged in conversation with the bus driver. Because that's something that's the kind of person that they are.
Yeah.
Engage with them. Otherwise, most kids are probably like, all right, get on the bus.
Yeah.
And like, hey, keep it down back there.
Right.
Like, hey, settle down. Then they're like, get on the bus. Morning, it's my birthday. Like,
right.
I guarantee you he had engaged somehow with the bus driver to learn
to find that out.
Or they have an established rapport or something,
Yeah, 100%.
Again, I'm inferring that, but that's what I would think. Yeah. I don't think the bus driver just freely gave out the information without some kind of interaction with them.
But to pay attention enough to think like, oh, hey, like if it is their birthday, they maybe do something nice. Like that's really, really cool.
Oh, yeah.
I know this isn't the same, obviously, but there was a bus driver that my brother and I had, and she was known as the mean bus driver because she just was always, she had it with the shenanigans happening on the bus. You could tell that she just was like ready for retirement. She was just over it. And I remember there was one day in particular where the boys, this was in elementary school, but the boys in the front of the bus were just being extra obnoxious and were being so rude. And she started crying. The bus driver did. Like, and I remember my brother and I were really concerned. We're like, the bus driver's crying. Like, oh my God. So we went home and we told my mom about that because we were like, holy cow, this happened on the bus. And my mom was like, I'm going to bake some cookies and then you guys take care of these cookies on the way to the bus tomorrow. And we were like, okay. So we brought the cookies to her. And I kid you not, the entire rest of the school year, she was so nice to me and my brother every time we'd come on and off the bus. And she was just a different person. We were like, holy cow, she's actually nice now. It's not to everybody else, but like to us, she would be like, oh, hello, how was school today? And it was just that thing. I mean, we were just, you know, talking about what had happened at school and stuff. But my mom to be like, I'm going to bake some cookies and you guys take this to her. Because it sounds like she's having a rough time. Paying attention enough to think about that kind of thing. And not just being like, oh, man, ooh, that sounds rough. And moving on, you know?
But did you know what kind of cookies to give her?
No, I didn't.
You should have paid more attention.
I should have. Another really funny story about paying attention. This is funny. I loved Twilight. I was one of those Twilight girls in middle school that was obsessed. And my brother knew that. And when he was on the bus, he was in 4th grade, I think. He found a Twilight slap bracelet. One of those things you slap and it goes around your
you're
wrist.
dating us right now with that.
You're
dating us hard. You're dating.
So he found one of those on the floor in the back of the bus. And he came home and he's like, hey, Adrianna, I got you something. And I'm like, oh, really? Wow, thank you so much. And he gives me this Twilight slap bracelet. I'm like, this is so cool. How'd you get this? Because I'm like, we didn't really have much money and he didn't go to the store that day. So how did he get it? Finally, he tells me, he's like, oh, I found it on the floor in the back of the bus. And I'm like, wait a second. This is someone else's slap bracelet. We need to turn this into the lost and found.
This might be thievery.
But he was in 4th grade, so he didn't think about it. He's just like, oh, look it. My sister likes Twilight. This is Twilight. I'm going to give it to her as a gift. So I thanked him for it, and I sneakily gave it to my mom to give to the lost and found. But what a sweet thought, though. Again, paying attention. It meant a lot, even though we had to give it back. It just meant a lot that my brother paid attention and knew that I liked Twilight and saw that and was like, oh my gosh, it's something Twilight. I'm going to give it to my sister. So yeah, it's just a good example. Paying attention when you find opportunities to do a kind act because it's something, you know, someone likes something, do it. Super cool. Unless it's something that should be in the lost and found, then maybe you should put it in the lost and found. But yeah. He was in 4th grade. It was the thought that counted.
In the kindness revolution, you must not be engaged in thievery, even if it's for the nice act of kindness. That's not what the revolution is about.
Someone might be looking for
do
said
not
bracelet.
condone thievery in the kindness revolution.
But it was sweet. Trigger warning for this next story. It does have some brief mentions of suicidal ideation. And so if you are not feeling up for that kind of a story today, you can feel free to push forward into the episode. I will put the time code in the description below. All right, on to our next subreddit. This one is Heartwarming, the subreddit Heartwarming, and it is titled, Thank You, Mr. Schmidt. Here we go.
That sounds like the name of what would be like a heartwarming movie that then has a sad ending, but then like has like, oh, I got some heartwarming thing afterwards.
That is exactly encompassing what this post is.
Oh no, wait. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm so sorry.
Here we go, ready?
It's probably starred Haley Joel Osment or something.
Here we go. I learned that one of my high school teachers, Mr. Schmidt, passed away last night. And in this season, when many are struggling with circumstances beyond their control, whether it be homelessness, unemployment, money troubles, or even just not having any loved ones to celebrate with, I figured we could use a reminder that there is light in this cold, dark world. Mr. Schmidt was a fantastic teacher, not just teaching the subject of world history, but applying other necessary skills and topics that we'd need in our adult lives. However, he was also the toughest high school teacher I ever had. And this is coming from someone who was in honors/AP classes. A B in his class was like an A in others, that kind of teacher. There were some days that I'd be frustrated, but I kept at it, not wanting to admit defeat. My sophomore year in high school, my school implemented an electronic gradebook that parents could check in on and see how their kids were doing. My dad, who for some reason was obsessed with my grades, was the very first person to sign up for this piece of spyware. Helpful tool. Every day, Dad would check in to make sure I had my homework turned in, and as you can guess, my dad needed a life. Unfortunately, a few weeks later, Murphy's Law, when things will go wrong, they'll go wrong, decided to glitch the system. The teachers would put in the graded assignments on their end, but for whatever reason, whenever the parents would check the online gradebook, it would be marked as incomplete. This problem lasted the rest of the school year. An email was sent to all the parents telling them that the online gradebook was down and that the teachers wouldn't be posting on it until the problem was fixed. I don't know if Dad never got the email or what, but he proceeded to make the rest of my sophomore year a living nightmare. He'd berate me for not getting my homework done, for being lazy, so on and so forth. At the time, I was dealing...
You just didn't believe them every time they said, no, I did turn it in. I did turn it in. The computer system is not working.
Yeah, well, they probably didn't even know that the computer system wasn't
I don't
working.
think the student know either.
They probably didn't know because it was an email sent to parents.
Well, either way, he's still saying that he turned them in. Or she,
Right.
I guess I don't know what the gender is.
Right. At the time, I was dealing with severe undiagnosed mental health issues, and it was taking a toll on my life. However, my parents didn't understand that mental health problems can be just as debilitating as physical health problems. You can see where this is going. My parents grounded me for months. I wasn't allowed to hang out with my friends, watch TV, play on the computer. I wasn't even allowed to sleep in my own room.
Yeah, that'll make it better.
My life essentially revolved around going to school and coming home, with either mom or dad standing over me, watching me work on my homework to make sure it was completed. I don't know why they never contacted my teachers to find out what was going on.
You'd think if they
saw them
if you
do
watch
it and
them do
completing
it, hand them in, you're still like you didn't do it, you lazy piece
Right.
of. That's like top tier gaslighting. If that's what's
Right.
happening, that doesn't make any sense. You'd think after that you'd be like, wait a second,
Why
is
aren't
it
you
not
turning
showing
them in
up?
if you're doing it?
So why is it
would you
not showing
turn
up?
it in? It was one of the first times I ever considered taking my own life because I couldn't see any way out. One cold gray morning, I had to go to school early for a project. As I was walking down the hall, Mr. Schmidt called out to me from his classroom and asked me to come in. I went in expecting to get into trouble for something. Instead, he pulled a chair by his desk and asked me to sit down. I did, and he looked at me and said, "The other teachers and I have noticed you're withdrawn in class and you've stopped interacting with others. What's wrong?" I burst into tears and I told him about my parents making my life a living hell because my assignments were coming back as incompletes on the stupid electronic gradebook. I didn't tell him about my plans to take my own life because I couldn't take the pressure anymore. Mr. Schmidt was silent as he listened to all of this, offering me Kleenexes from the box he kept on his desk. When I finished, he took a deep breath and said, "It's not your fault. I'm sorry you're going through this." At this point, we can hear the students arriving and going to their lockers. He looked at the clock. "You need to get to class. Come to my desk at the end of the day. I'll give you something to give to your parents." We stood up and Mr. Schmidt put a hand on my shoulder. "It's going to get better, I promise," he said, "okay?" I nodded and thanked him before going to my locker. World history was my last class of the day, and as I promised, I went to his desk. He gave me an envelope addressed to my parents. When I got home, I gave the envelope to my mom and went to do my homework. That night, I had finished my homework and was lying on the bed in the spare bedroom, staring at the ceiling and contemplating how I was going to die. Oof. Dad stepped in the doorway, looking chastised. "You're no longer grounded." I looked at him, wondering if this was a trap or something. "I made a mistake. I'm sorry." And with that, Dad walked off. Starting the next day, things got better. I was able to hang out with friends and do things that I hadn't been able to do in several months. I eventually was able to get diagnosed with depression and anxiety and start medication and therapy. During that time, my teachers, especially Mr. Schmidt, kept an eye out for me until I graduated high school. I never did find out what he said in that letter, but whatever he said, it must have convinced my parents to seriously reevaluate how they were treating me. Things have been up and down since that cold gray morning. Right now, things are down, but I still cling to Mr. Schmidt's words of "it's going to get better, I promise." Thank you, Mr. Schmidt, for saving my life.
Whew.
Yeah.
Dang. I just don't even know what to add to that. What a really depressing emotional journey.
But also,
That has a hopeful, uplifting message at the end. But man, is that heavy.
Yeah, it is really, really heavy. On a number of things, it's a good reminder to pay attention, because with the parents not paying attention enough to realize what this was doing to their kid, and there are more important things than getting good grades, and that wasn't even an issue here. It sounds like they were a good student, but really paying attention to people's mental health and not just assuming that they're fine. It's really, really important to really check in and see how people are doing, and really, just pay attention. If they seem like they're withdrawing from things and stuff, that's a huge sign. And it's the fact that this teacher was paying enough attention, and the other teachers, because it sounds like there was multiple teachers that were talking about this and stuff, so that they were paying attention and noticing that they weren't talking with kids at school much anymore, that's a huge red flag. And so for them to recognize that and to take the time to take him aside and to ask him what's going on, because they probably would have had no idea what's going on. Obviously, in fact, they didn't. So yeah, and to be able to then at least try to get through to the parents and be like, hey, like, whatever's going on, your kid has changed in school and is seeming like they're having a rough time. So you might want to address something at home because this is not working. I think that's really important. And being a parent is hard, and misunderstandings happen, mistakes happen, things that we think we would handle well, sometimes we don't. And so there, give grace there. Like, it's easy to like look on these parents and be like, how could you not realize this was going on? But, they might have multiple kids. They might be juggling a lot of stuff. We don't know the situation. We're not given full context, but also like it's just a good reminder for us in general to not always take everything at face value. If something is off or not looking like things are working correctly, maybe question it a little more than just assuming that your kid is just a bad student. Or is, like if it's consistently acting like it's incomplete, maybe question things and pay attention a little bit more to figure out what's going on, or take the time to pay attention enough to reach out to the teacher and be like, what's going on? My kid used to turn in assignments and is not anymore. What's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, parents believe your kids. And if you don't, for whatever reason, they've given you a reason not to trust them, actually look into it. Don't just assume that they're lying. I don't know. This is a situation where they could have done a little bit of research, like this kid's just never doing any assignments, and even though they're swearing that they're doing it, you're just assuming they're lying rather than just make a phone call or look into something, send an email. Yeah. I don't know. And I get it. I want to give grace as well about, parenting is hard, managing multiple kids, but also teachers are also managing multiple kids, and the teacher still noticed that something was not right here.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying, like, because it's easy to, especially on like TAH posts and stuff, it's very easy to quickly look at something and go, oh my God, how could you do that? How could you be so awful to this person? And like, yes, sometimes people are awful, and sometimes people are not, make really bad decisions and treat people horribly. That is for sure a thing, but like just making sure that we're not jumping to that necessarily here. But also acknowledging that this is a warning sign in general to just be careful to jump to conclusions about people, about things that are happening, and instead really, if you have a negative perception of somebody, pay attention and actually go that extra effort to figure out if that's actually the case instead of just blindly thinking that's the case. Because that can really affect somebody if you have a low opinion of them and are making them think that that's a truth when it's not. Because that kid might have thought like maybe I am a bad student, even though they were doing everything they could, Yeah. So a kind of bittersweet story, a lot of really like tough stuff in that, but I think it has a lot of good messages, and it's really awesome to see that once again, great example of a teacher. Like a lot of teachers are really, really good people, and they do care, which is really, really cool.
Mr. Schmidt does deserve a movie.
Mr. Schmidt, yeah. So
maybe play it by Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
He could do it.
He could do it.
Kind of like Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Yeah. On to our news article for today. This one comes from cbsnews.com, and it is titled, Superhero Project Gives Families with Babies in the NICU a Lifeline to Always Have Eyes on Them.
Okay.
Yeah, so this story is about, like I said, the Superhero Project. So basically what they do is they have cameras installed into the NICU that are above each of the units, each of the things for the kid that the babies are in, so that people can always connect to it with their phones or laptops, so that parents that are at home can still have an eye on their baby at all times if they want to, which is super, super cool. It's become kind of a national organization. It was first a local initiative, and it's grown. So it started off with a family giving their testimonial here, saying that they had a baby that was born prematurely at 32 weeks and weighed only 1 pound 15 ounces. Isn't that crazy? It said that this baby was in the hospital in the NICU for 61 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So the dad said, to quote the dad, "You're always thinking about him. You're always wondering how he's doing, how he's progressing." And because it was so long that this baby was in the NICU, they couldn't stay in the hospital that long because they had to leave and go back to their house and stuff. And so they said it was amazing to be able to have access to watching their baby 24 hours a day. They could have it on their phone at all times and have eyes on their baby. So, yeah.
Some peace of mind there.
To quote the article, "I was able to see John, the baby, on that camera before I actually met him in person. That was so amazing for me because not being able to see my baby for 24 hours, it's probably the hardest thing I've ever done."
Man.
Yeah, crazy. So, yeah, just being able to pull it up on your phone. The baby is now 9 months old and is living healthily. And they said at home with their family, and they're all grateful that they were able to stay connected even while he was in the hospital. So, yeah, it's a huge deal, this initiative, and it's cool that they're rolling it out nationally. Like, I can't even imagine if we end up having a baby in the NICU having to leave their side and go home without them. Like, that sounds incredibly hard.
Yeah.
And so just being able to have that peace of mind of having something that's on all the time and you can watch them, so it still feels like they're with you even a little bit, that's huge. I mean, even for our dogs, we have cameras in our house so we can check on them if we're away, somewhere. It's nice to peace of mind, just being able to, like, okay, how are they doing? Okay, they're good, if we're out and about. So imagine if, being your baby.
Yeah.
So having that opportunity to be able to check in on them and have that's really, really cool. And it's awesome that they're doing this. So, yeah. With that, we will end today's podcast episode. Tune in next week for our next episode, which is all about adapting for connection. So all about making changes and making adaptations in order to be able to connect with people, because not everyone wants to connect in the same way. People are different, we all have our different preferences, our different abilities, things like that. And so making adaptations in order to be able to make those connections with people that we care about. So,
yes,
yeah.
Because for the kindness revolution to be successful, we must be adaptable.
Exactly.
It's gonna be a thing.
Sounds good.
I will make it a thing.
All right. If you have any positive stories or any positive news articles that you would like to share, please send them to us at upliftingpositivestories@gmail.com, or you can post them on our subreddit, which is Uplift Positive Stories.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button, and please leave a comment. Maybe share your own story.
That'd be awesome.
Be part of the kindness revolution.
The kindness revolution. Have a wonderful rest of your week, everybody.
And stay positive.